when Mike and I were together at Alabama, we very rarely disagreed wholeheartedly on issues. And if we ever did disagree somewhat, we had great communication skills. I think Mike's a great communicator. He's very reasonable. He's very smart. He's done things a lot of different ways, and we had very good discussions through the course of building that system into what we wanted it to look like. And so as I came here, we've had a lot of those same discussions, and a lot of times he's finishing my sentence for me, and sometimes I'm finishing his sentence with certain ways we want the quarterback coached or taught. And I think certainly that will help with the communication for the rest of the offensive staff, and certainly through the eyes of the quarterback, as we always try to see things through the eyes of the quarterback, through the rest of our offense. I think it can be very beneficial.
And then sort of another thing, not to get too philosophical, but do you see this offense more as a pass to set up the run or run to set up the pass kind of deal?
I think, 10 years ago, it's like you're going to run the ball, and set up the pass. So I think it's a great question. I think with today's day and age, and with the skill level that we have, I think it could work both ways, to be quite honest with you. I think, and with the advancement of the RPOs, which is kind of, when you call an RPO, you're calling a run and a pass, and you don't decide what happens. The defense kind of decides. So you make a post-snap decision. And so I think that it could work both ways. And with the skill level that we have at wide receiver, as I look at it and studied their 5-game season, and then obviously with the skill at quarterback, I think that could certainly be something that this offense may do, is the passing game may help set up the run. And I always feel like a lot of times you don't dictate that. The defense dictates that by how they're going to decide to play you. We just got to have the ability to be able to throw the ball when we need to get to win. And then obviously if people are going to lighten up the box and allow us to have the chance to run, we got to be efficient at that as well.
And also, sort of coming into this program, I'm curious. You mentioned looking back at the 5-game season. How much have you researched this program? And I guess what are your takes? You've been to Alabama, you've been to other programs. What does Maryland sort of have in the closet that you sort of like?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I from the day Coach Loxley got here, was always had tremendous respect for him. So I was always rooting for him, and so I was always kind of watching this program from afar, watching their games when I could, speaking with Coach Loxley in the off season about different things they were doing schematically and things he was adjusting to. So I've studied it. I've had a chance to watch all 5 of their games, not just once, but multiple times from a year ago. And here I see a team that has a chance, again, based on my experience in different places I've been. I see an offense that has a chance to be very special. I'm very excited about the talent level that is here. I think the wide receiver group is one of the most talented receiver groups I've been around. It's deep. It's got big guys. It's got fast guys. I was very impressed with the competitive nature of the group. So I think the running backs are very good. I think the quarterback has a chance to be special. And, again, very excited about the offensive line and Coach Braswell. And I think the one group that probably is going to look probably the most different to people might be the tight end room, having Corey Deitch there and having Chig back, and then having the freshmen that were able to enroll early and watching them go through winter conditioning. So I think we're building an offense that has a chance to be very well-rounded and very versatile.
Hey, Coach, Jacob Richmond from the Diamondback. I appreciate you giving your time today. Just a couple of quick questions. So this is probably one of the strangest times to be joining a program. Can you talk about what interactions have looked like between you and some of your players so far?
Yeah, it's there's a couple things with that. I think first off, having the pandemic, we did not go on the road and recruit. I got hired in January. Usually when you're hired in January, you immediately leave campus, go on the road and recruit. And it takes you till about the middle or the end of February to start interacting with your current players on campus. So having the pandemic was actually a blessing in disguise, because I feel like we've spent a lot more time with our players on campus. We've had extra time. We've had, you know, been around winter conditioning more, had a chance to just have social visits where they are up in your office and, you know, stopping by to see you. You've had more interaction to help them, you know, as far as academically goes. And so I feel like that's been a really positive thing, is just to have the chance to, especially being a new coach and arriving at a program where obviously these guys all know each other. I think that's been a bonus for me, is just having these extra weeks and these extra days just to kind of be around the players and kind of learn who they are a little bit, and let them to learn also a little bit about me.
And so just, you know, being in this strange time and approaching this practice a little bit differently than, you know, it's been in the past years. How have you and the rest of the coaching staff, what have you guys done so that you can approach this upcoming practice and even next season on your own terms?
Yeah, I think, you know, first off, I think it's just a blessing to be able to have spring practice. So every opportunity that we've been allowed to have interaction with our guys, and today having a spring practice, you know, we don't take it. I guess you don't take it for granted anymore. You really appreciate it. You know, we've taken the protocols very, very seriously, with wearing masks in our building all times, all around, making our players do the same thing when we're in meetings. We're socially distancing, we're wearing our masks, we're testing twice a week. And so I think that nobody wants to put those things in jeopardy by not doing things the right way. So again, I think as a guy that's been around the college game for about 30 years now, I guess it's made me appreciate, just like you mentioned, just a spring practice. I mean, it's not, you know, oh, here we go, spring practice. It's like, man, I'm really excited that we're able to even have spring practice. And I think our players feel the same way. And, you know, one thing Coach Loxley has done is just told us to make sure, all of us, players and coaches, to make sure that we not only appreciate it, but we take advantage of every opportunity to just try to use it to help get better. Because as Coach Loxley said, you know, they had no spring practices last year here, and it's a very young team. And so we need to use these opportunities and make sure we get the most out of them. Be very organized, be very efficient, have our meetings organized so that we're teaching, and have our practices organized so we're not wasting time out there. We're getting reps and having the chance to teach in between our practice days.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Emily Giambavo. I work for the Washington Post. I just got in here, so I'm probably about to ask you things you've already answered. But I guess first, just how did the job here come to be? When Loxley reached out to you, what was your thought process like, and what kind of attracted you to come to this school?
Well, I think first and foremost is my respect and relationship with Mike, with Coach Loxley, was one of the biggest factors. And then, you know, having a chance to watch this program since he's been here. You know, I've obviously had a great relationship with him. I have a tremendous amount of respect and admiration for him. So I was watching this program from the get-go, and had a chance to visit with Mike even a year ago, just about different things. And, you know, he would call, or I would call, and we would talk about quarterback stuff or schematic things. So when this opportunity presented itself, it was obviously my respect for him, my belief in him, but then also having watched and observed the program, what excited me was what he's building here, the excitement, the talent level that he is compiling from a recruiting standpoint. And then, you know, having the chance to watch a few of their games last year, just, you know, and knowing Talia from before, very, very excited to have the chance to coach him and be around him. And then looking at the talent level that's surrounding him was all those played, you know, big factors in it.
And obviously the offense you guys had at Alabama is really probably what springboarded Loxley to this position too. How much you maybe try to like recreate that, or how much does what you guys did together there translate now that you and Lox are working together again in a little bit different capacities?
Yeah. You know, Mike is one of those rare guys that from the moment him and I started to work, we didn't really know each other before I got to Bama. And so once we got there, it was like we hit the ground running. We're very similar and philosophically. We have very strong feelings about quarterback development, quarterback training, how quarterbacks should be taught to do things. Mike's an outstanding coach. He was able to, you know, he was a little bit more spread than I ever was. You know, I was a little more pro style. So, you know, when we worked together, we kind of shared each other both sides of the fence, if you will. And, you know, and we had some great conversations, and we were able to, with the rest of the guys on our staff there, put together an offense and a system, I think, that was very, very sound, very, very versatile, very diverse system. And so obviously we're going to try to continue that here. You know, every team's different. You know, there's always adjustments. We're always looking to make things better, enhance things, obviously. But I think the foundation of what we're going to do, Mike and I are on the same page and very excited to get it going. And obviously with things that we're doing here already, there's some terminology things that we've changed or adapted. And then there'll be obviously some things schematically that we're going to continue to try to implement and develop. And then, you know, really through the course of spring practice and fall camp, and then our offense's, you know, identity, and that will kind of show itself, and we'll know who we are.
And just to clarify, you guys changed it because Coach Locks mentioned this too. You guys changed the terminology kind of back to what you guys were both doing before you got here?
Yeah, and not all of it. Some of it was already that way. You know, Coach Loxley was thinking that maybe it was getting too wordy, some of the things. And so we kind of dove back into, like, you know, our roots, if you will, and kind of look back at what we did. We went through everything step by step of what we're doing now, went through the entire playbook, you know, having that extra time without having to go on the road recruiting in January. We were able to spend a lot of time just detailing out and evaluating, you know, the goods and the bads and the entire system, and trying to, you know, make it as best and as efficient and easy for the players as we possibly could. So most of it stayed the same. You know, Coach Loxley was like, listen, you know, the players all know it this way. You know, let's just make Dan learn it. That's one person learning it rather than 60 people learning something totally different. So we tried to keep it as close to the system that we had it, but we also knew there was probably some things that we needed to adapt, and we did that. And I think everybody feels good about where we're at right now.